I still remember the moment everything began to change. It was a quiet evening, the kind where the world outside your window seems too still, too perfect, like it's waiting for something to break it. I sat in my room, hunched over my laptop, wearing my favorite hoodie that I had stolen from my sister's laundry basket years ago. It still smelled like soft lavender, and I didn't know why, but wearing it made me feel safe.
Seen.
Like someone else. Like her. Online, they knew me as Lila. And Lila, she wasn't afraid to speak. She wasn't shy or awkward or afraid of making eye contact. She didn't stutter. She didn't worry if someone would laugh at the way her voice trembled. She was beautiful. She was confident. She was everything I wasn't. My real name?
Elias.
Quiet boy. The kind of boy people forgot they'd seen in the hallway. Some teachers called me by the wrong name all year, and I never corrected them. It didn't matter. Elias didn't matter. But Lila had over 32,000 followers. Strangers told her she was gorgeous.
Smart. Kind.
Everything I always wished someone would say to me. Everything I couldn't be, at least not in this world. It started as a simple experiment. I made the account late one night 2 years ago, on an app where no one had to know who you really were. I used to filter at first, then makeup, then wigs. Then one day, I didn't use anything. I just smiled into the camera and let Lila live. And they loved her. But none of them knew the truth. Not even the boy who changed everything. His name was Jonah. He messaged Lila one night, not in a creepy way like so many others did. He said her poetry made him cry. That it felt like someone finally put into words what he'd been carrying in his chest. He didn't just compliment the way she looked. He asked her questions. He told her about his dog, his mom, his dreams of becoming a marine biologist. He even told her about how lonely he felt sometimes, surrounded by friends, but still feeling like no one really saw him. I knew Jonah. Not personally, but he went to my school. We shared chemistry class, sat just 2 rows apart. He was the kind of boy people liked. Quiet in his own way, but not like me. He had presence. Girls liked him. Guys respected him. But he was always kind even to people like me. That made him dangerous. Because Jonah started to fall for Lila. And the worst part? I let him. I told myself it was harmless.
Just chatting.
Just talking to someone who saw me even if he didn't know who I really was. Even if I had to lie every second to keep him close. I told myself it wasn't real. But it was. Every time my phone lit up with his name, my stomach flipped. I would sit up straighter, fix my hair, even though he couldn't see me. I would reread his messages over and over until I memorized the way he typed his lols and the times he used ellipses. I was in too deep. But it wasn't until the night he said he wanted to meet that I realized I'd built something I couldn't escape from. I want to see you, he wrote. Not just in pictures. I want to talk to you. In real life. You're the only person who gets me. I stared at those words for almost an hour. My hands shaking. My throat dry. 1,000 thoughts screaming in my head and one voice whispering, Tell him. Tell him the truth. But instead, I lied again. I'm not ready, I typed. And somehow, that made him love her even more. He said it was okay. That he'd wait. That he would never pressure her. That just knowing she existed was enough. I cried that night. Not just soft tears. The ugly kind.
Gasping.
Stifling sobs into my pillow because I couldn't make a sound. I cried because I wished more than anything that I could be Lila. That I could meet him as her. Be with him as her. Laugh with him without fear of what he might see behind the makeup and the light. And I knew I couldn't keep doing it. I tried to stop. I ignored his messages. For 2 days, I didn't respond. Then 4. Then a week. And on the 7th day, he showed up in chemistry class with bloodshot eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept. He was quieter than usual. Didn't talk to anyone. And for the first time, I realized what I was doing wasn't harmless. I was hurting him. I wasn't just hiding. I was lying. And still, I couldn't let go. Because Lila was the only part of me that ever felt alive. That's when things started to spiral. One of the girls in my class, Marin, started paying attention to me. I'd sat behind her for almost a year, and she had never once said more than a polite, hi. But one afternoon, she turned around and looked at me, really looked at me. Elias, she said slowly, like trying my name for the first time, do you have an Instagram? My heart froze. What? I mumbled. You just look familiar. There's this girl I follow. Lila. Her eyes are just like yours. I felt like the floor had disappeared. Like the air had turned solid in my lungs. I couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. I don't know her, I said too fast, too sharp. Marin tilted her head. Weird. You really do look alike. She turned back around, but I saw her glance at me once more before class ended. That night, I deleted Lila's photos. Not the account. I couldn't do that. But the pictures, the reels, the stories, I made them vanish. Like she'd never existed. Like I'd never existed. Jonah messaged me an hour later. Did something happen? Your page is gone. I didn't reply. 2 days passed. Then 3. And then the message came. I think I saw you today. Not Lila. You. I dropped my phone. I picked it up with trembling hands, reread the message, then tossed it across my bed like it might burn me. He knew. He saw me. My heart pounded so loud I couldn't hear anything else. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he was waiting outside the school entrance. I saw him before he saw me. His hair was damp from the rain, his hands shoved into his jacket pockets, looking around like he was searching for someone. For her. For me. I turned and ran. Skipped class. Hid in the back of the library, behind the encyclopedias no one touched. I stayed there until the final bell rang. But Jonah didn't give up. He started leaving notes in my locker. Not addressed to Lila. To me. To Elias. He never said what he knew. He never accused me. Just wrote things. I miss talking to you. Whoever you are. I'm not angry. Just confused. And a little heartbroken. I meant everything I said to you. Every message. Then one day. I don't care what your name is. I still want to know you. I didn't know what to do. My head was a mess. My heart was worse. I told myself I couldn't be what he wanted. That if he saw me, really saw me, he'd leave. He'd hate me. Or worse, he'd pity me. But a part of me, a very small part, wondered if maybe, just maybe, he meant it. And that small part was what made me say yes when he asked if I'd meet him after school. I didn't go as Elias. I didn't go as Lila either. That I went as both. Hair tied back, but soft makeup. Jeans and a hoodie, but painted nails. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't care. It was the closest I'd ever been to myself. He was already there when I arrived. Sitting on the swings at the park 2 blocks from school. Just watching the sky. When he saw me, he stood. Didn't smile. Didn't speak. Just stared. I walked toward him, my heart pounding in my throat. And then, softly, he said, "It's you." I nodded. And then, he smiled. And that changed everything. He didn't ask me why. Not at first. We sat down on the swings, side by side, both of us staring ahead like if we looked at each other for too long, everything would fall apart. The wind was light, just enough to lift my hair from my cheek. My fingers trembled in my lap, but I kept them there. I didn't want to hide them anymore. He was the first to speak. I thought maybe I made it all up, he said. That I wanted to believe something that wasn't real. I couldn't look at him yet. My voice felt lodged behind everything I hadn't said. But you didn't, I finally whispered. He turned slightly toward me. So, it was you all this time. I nodded, slow and unsure. I never meant to lie, I said. I didn't think anyone would like me. Not like this. Not the real me. But that wasn't a lie, he said. You were you. I just didn't know all of you. I didn't expect those words. I didn't expect how gently he said them. Like he wasn't angry. Like he wasn't hurt. Or maybe he was, but he still wanted to understand. I wanted to stop, I told him. So many times. But every time I tried, I felt like I was losing the only part of me that ever felt like home. The silence stretched again. I felt the weight of it settle into my bones. You looked like her today, he said softly. Not because of makeup or clothes, because you were finally breathing. That's when I looked at him, and I saw something I didn't know how to name. Not forgiveness, not even certainty. Something in between. Something honest. I liked her, he said. A lot. I swallowed. And now? He hesitated.
Now.
I don't know who I'm falling for, but I think it might still be you.
I didn't cry.
I thought I would, but I didn't. I just breathed for the first time in what felt like months. But not everything gets to be beautiful just because you finally tell the truth. The next day at school, I found my locker wide open. Inside were my clothes, the ones I thought I'd hidden. A wig, a printed photo of Lila's Instagram, and a single word written across it in red marker. Freak. My stomach dropped. My skin went cold. I looked around the hallway. Laughter. Whispers. But no one met my eyes. Not even Marin, who quickly turned away when I caught her watching me. Someone had found out. Someone had gone through my things. Someone wanted me exposed.
I didn't cry. Not then.
But Jonah did. He stormed into the hallway when he saw it. Shoved the locker shut so hard it echoed down the hall. He grabbed the photo, crumpled it in his fist, and looked around at everyone. Cowards, he said. Every single one of you. And he walked me to the principal's office. I should have felt grateful, protected, but I felt humiliated. I felt like I'd just been peeled open and hung up for the world to mock. That night, I didn't log in as Lila. I deleted the app. I stared at the screen, the final "Are you sure?" message blinking, asking me if I really wanted to lose everything I had built. I clicked yes.
Gone.
The screen went blank. I stared at my reflection in the monitor. I didn't recognize him. Or maybe I did. Maybe this was who I had always been without the filter, the shield, the lie. And it hurt. I didn't go to school for 2 days. My mom thought I had the flu. I let her believe it. Jonah messaged me every night. Please don't disappear. You didn't deserve that. I'm still here. I didn't reply. Until the 3rd day. I sent one message. I don't know how to be both. His reply came instantly. You already are. The next morning, I walked into school without the hoodie. Without hiding behind my hair. No makeup. Just me. Everyone stared. They didn't say anything. But they stared. And that's when she approached. Marin. I didn't do it, she said, before I could even look at her. But I know who did. I didn't ask. I'm sorry, she added. I wasn't sure it was you. But I told someone. And I shouldn't have. I nodded. That was all I could do. I wasn't angry. I was just tired. She walked away. That week was quiet. No one spoke to me. No one shoved me or yelled or threw things. They just avoided me. Like I was contagious. Like the air around me had changed. But Jonah didn't. He sat beside me at lunch. He waited for me after class. And he didn't pretend things were easy. He didn't force smiles. He just stayed. And slowly, I began to stay too. There was one day, about a week later, that changed things again. Drama class was holding open auditions for their winter play. I had never dared even consider joining. But something in me had shifted. Something that felt like defiance. Or maybe hope. I signed up. Jonah saw my name on the list. You're really doing it? He asked. I shrugged. Why not? You'll be great, he said. You don't even know if I can act. I've seen you live 2 lives. That's more acting than most people ever do. I laughed. The sound surprised me. Auditions were terrifying. My hands shook. My voice cracked. But I didn't stop. I read every line. I stood under the spotlight and let myself be seen, really seen. The director clapped. You have something, she said. Something people lean into. I got the part. And for the first time, I wasn't pretending to be someone else. I was playing a character, yes. But I was doing it as me. Jonah came to every rehearsal. He sat in the back, reading, sometimes watching, sometimes just being there. And one night, when I finished my scene, he met me outside the auditorium. You know, he said, you're beautiful like this too.
I didn't know what to say.
So I didn't say anything. He stepped closer. His hand brushed mine. And then, slowly, deliberately, he kissed me. It wasn't magic. It wasn't fireworks. It was real.
Soft. Scared. Honest.
And it meant everything. But life doesn't let things stay perfect for long. A video surfaced. Someone had taken an old clip from Lila's page before I deleted it. One of the popular kids reposted it with a side-by-side of me at school. The caption was brutal, mocking. It went viral in the school group chat. Even kids from other schools started commenting. The principal called me in. She said she'd deal with it. But the damage was already done. My mom found out. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there in the kitchen, holding her coffee, staring at the video on her phone. Then she looked at me. Is this who you are? I didn't answer, because I didn't know how to put it into words. She sat down. I wish you had told me, she said. Not because I'm angry, but because you went through all this alone. I broke then. I sat on the floor and sobbed. She came over, wrapped her arms around me like she used to when I was small, and just let me cry. I don't care what they say, she whispered. You're my child. And you're brave. So brave. I had waited my whole life to hear something like that. And the next day, when I walked back into school, the whispers didn't matter anymore. Jonah was waiting by my locker. He held out his hand. You ready? He asked. For what? To stop hiding. I took his hand. And together, we walked down the hallway. The hallway was quiet, too quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath. Jonah's hand in mine felt like an anchor, like proof that I wasn't dreaming, that someone knew who I really was and still chose to walk beside me. But not everyone looked away anymore. Some stared. Some smirked. Others whispered. But just a few met my eyes. And they didn't look away. They didn't glare, either. There was something softer in their gaze. Curiosity, maybe. Or respect. Still, the video hadn't gone away. It was everywhere. My old photos, my posts as Lila, my voice reading poetry in that soft tone I practiced for months, all of it had been turned into memes, clips, jokes. And yet, I hadn't disappeared. I sat in my classes. I answered questions. I showed up to rehearsal. I walked past the kids who laughed and still raised my chin. Because the truth had finally bled out of me, and no one could use it as a weapon anymore. The first time someone said something to my face, it was during gym. I was walking toward the lockers, keeping my head down when I heard it. Hey, Lila, someone said. You forget your heels today? It came from Mason, one of the guys who always tried too hard to be the center of every joke. He smirked, nudged his friend, waited for me to shrink. But I didn't. I stopped, turned around and looked him in the eye. You practicing how to catcall Mason? Didn't think you'd be into my heels. Laughter erupted behind me. Not at me. At him. He flushed, mumbled something, and walked away. It wasn't courage, not really. I was terrified. But it was the first time I didn't run. Jonah waited for me outside gym. He didn't say anything. He just gave me a quiet nod. That was enough. But things got harder before they got better. One night, about a week before the play's opening, I got a DM from a fake account. No name. No followers. Just a message. You really think people will come see you? Freak show. I blocked them. An hour later, another one came. Different account. Same words. Then a third. Then a photo of me, taken from behind, outside rehearsal. I stopped sleeping. My mom noticed. I told her it was just nerves. But she knew. She always knew when I lied. She sat on the edge of my bed that night and said, people only try to silence what scares them. And you? You're brave enough to make them uncomfortable. That stuck with me. Jonah noticed I was unraveling. He asked me if I wanted to quit the play, if I needed to step away. But I couldn't. I wouldn't let them take it from me too. Opening night came. I wore the costume I had chosen weeks ago, a simple outfit, genderless, soft. It was perfect. Not a disguise. Not armor. Just expression. The lights came up. My cue arrived. I stepped onto the stage, and everything vanished. The whispers. The fear. the messages, the doubt, all gone. And for 2 hours, I lived as someone who had never needed to hide. The applause at the end was thunderous. When the curtains closed, I stood behind them, breathless, heart pounding. Then I saw him. Jonah had come backstage. He didn't say anything at first, just looked at me like I was the only thing in the room. "You were stunning," he said finally. "I was scared," I whispered. "So was I," he replied. Then he leaned forward and kissed my cheek. "Still am," he added. "But not of you." And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to be one or the other. I didn't feel like a lie. I felt real. But the real world doesn't always wait for your heart to catch up. The next day, I was called into the office. The principal looked tired, nervous even. "There's been a complaint," she said. Some parents were uncomfortable. They said the school is promoting confusion. I didn't respond. They want to meet, discuss boundaries, definitions. I stared at her. Do they want to erase me? She looked sad. Some of them don't understand what they're asking for. They don't have to understand, I said. They just have to let me exist. She nodded slowly. "I'm with you," she said. "But this might get louder before it gets quieter." She was right. An anonymous letter was sent to the school board. Petitions started. People took sides. But the thing was, I wasn't alone anymore. Other students spoke up. Quiet ones. Ones who had never looked me in the eye before. They stood with me. Some teachers too. And Jonah? He never once let go. One night, after everything boiled over, after I cried into my pillow thinking I'd never be free of it, he called me. "Come outside," he said. I did. He was there, standing under the streetlight, holding a small cardboard sign. It read, "You're not a lie. You're a revolution." I broke, ran to him, hugged him so tight, I thought I'd break his ribs. And for the first time, I said it out loud. I don't want to be just her. Or just him. I want to be me. He pulled back, looked into my eyes, and smiled. Then be you. That's who I fell for anyway. Graduation came faster than I expected. One day I was still bracing myself in the bathroom mirror, whispering "you're okay," over and over again while fixing my sleeves, and the next, I was standing in line wearing a cap and gown, surrounded by faces that once saw me as invisible or worse, as a joke.
But now,
I wasn't either. I wasn't popular. I wasn't beloved. But I was no longer erased. Some looked away when I passed. Some smiled awkwardly. But some nodded. And I noticed that nod. The quiet ones. The ones who saw me, not because of who I had to pretend to be, but because I was finally whole. Elias and Lila weren't separate anymore. They never were. I just didn't know how to let both live in one body. Until now. When I walked up to the stage and they called my name, not a nickname, not a joke, just my name, the cheers weren't loud. But Jonah stood. He clapped. And beside him, my mom did too, her hands over her mouth, crying. And somehow it was enough. After the ceremony, I didn't run. I didn't hide behind the edge of the bleachers or pretend I needed to find my ride. I let myself stand in the center of it all. I breathed it in. Marin found me after the crowd had thinned. She held out an envelope. I never said I was sorry.
Not really.
I opened it. Inside was a sketch, rough lines, charcoal of me on stage during the play. I recognized the moment. That exact pose. That moment when I reached my arms toward the audience like I had nothing left to fear. "You looked like someone becoming," she said. So I drew it. I didn't say anything. I just pulled her into a hug. She whispered, "Thank you for not disappearing." Later that night, Jonah and I sat on the roof of his car, parked at the edge of the overlook where the city lights looked like a second sky. Neither of us said anything for a while. Then he turned to me. "What happens now?" I laughed gently. "I wish I knew." He leaned back, stared up at the sky. "Whatever it is, don't stop being this version of you. Please." The one that finally breathes. The one that doesn't apologize for existing. I was quiet, thinking about all the nights I used to hide under my blanket with my phone screen lighting up my face, pretending I was someone else, someone better. "I used to think I had to choose," I said. Either disappear into who the world expected or only exist in secret. But maybe it's not about choosing. Maybe it's about becoming. Jonah looked over. Becoming what? I smiled. Me. There was a long pause. Then he whispered, "You know, I didn't just fall for Lila. I fell for the way you wrote. The way you saw the world. You made things feel like poetry." My chest tightened. Not in pain. In recognition. He didn't love a mask. He loved the person who had been inside it all along. Weeks passed. Then months. I moved cities. Started university. A place where no one knew who I used to be, what I had hidden, or how many pieces I had to put back together just to sit in a classroom again. And still, I didn't go back to hiding. I wore what felt right. Some days soft. Some days sharp. Some days I leaned into the curve of a skirt, the way it danced with the wind. Other days I wore denim and flannel and let my voice drop low. I didn't label it. I just existed. And every time I took a step forward, every time I looked in the mirror and saw both Lila and Elias folded into one face, I smiled. I started writing again. This time, not in secret. I performed one of my poems at an open mic night near campus. My hands were shaking. My voice cracked on the second stanza. But I kept going. After, someone approached me. A first-year student. Nervous.
Shy.
"I don't know how to say this," they said, "but hearing you made me feel like I wasn't broken." I nodded.
You're not, I said.
"You're becoming." And I realized in that moment the story wasn't just about me anymore. It never had been. It was for the quiet ones. The hidden ones. The ones who built themselves in silence, hoping someday someone might see the beauty in the scaffolding. I wrote my final piece that spring. The one that got shared. The one that traveled. It was called "He Loved Her, So I Became Her." And at the very end, I read the final lines aloud under a single spotlight. I was not her. I was not him. I was the ache between them, the thread, the bridge, the burning. And somehow, finally, I became the story worth telling. When I looked up, Jonah was in the crowd. Still clapping. Still here. Still loving the person I became. And for the first time in my life, I no longer feared who I was becoming. Because I knew I had already become.